introduce to you my friend Wachid Ridwan. When I first met Wachid, he was 26 years old. He's a little older now. At that time, in 1997, he had a mentor that had been here in the United States and spoke at Fordham University, and I had met him there, Dr. Sherzin, and he went back to Indonesia and he said, Wachid, you have to go to America and go on the peace walk with the American lady that's gonna have, the organization is World Citizen Diplomats, and they're gonna have a peace caravan through Canada, and you need to go. And so Wachid went and finished college, and soon he wrote and he told me that he was coming to America, and he was going to be part of the peace caravan. So in 1996, in 97, he arrived. He flew from Jakarta, Indonesia, in an airplane full of Indonesians, and they landed in LA. And then he changed planes. And the plane that he got on was full of Americans. And all of a sudden, he was in an English world. So when he got to Philadelphia, and I picked him up at Philadelphia University, at Philadelphia Airport, and we headed to Bristol, Pennsylvania, where we were staying, I said, well, how was your trip, Wachid? And he says, well, there was no people of my kind on the plane. And welcome to America and welcome to culture shock. And he's gonna tell you a wonderful story. But he not only did the peace caravan through Canada for 10 weeks with me, after we finished planning it, he spent a month with me planning it, and then he spent 10 weeks traveling through Canada when we started in Pennsylvania and went to Montreal and to Toronto and Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay and Calgary and Winnipeg and all the way across to Vancouver. And then we went all the way up to Skagway, Alaska. And we ended in Skagway because it was the closest that we could get to in Alaska, and I swore we were gonna go to Alaska, but we were running out of money. So at least we made it to Skagway. And then I took him back down the West Coast and put him on a plane in LA. And he went back to Indonesia and recruited 3 more professors to come with us the next year when we did our peace caravan through Europe and Scandinavia. And so then I'm gonna let him tell you, because I'm not sure what all he's got in his speech. But at this time, I'd like to introduce Wachid.
Just gonna take the podium.
Yes. I meant to tell you that he's a professor also. He is a professor of international relations who teaches counterterrorism. That's what he teaches at his university.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. First of all, I apologize if my English is a little bit or maybe more broken, because I speak all the time with Bahasa Indonesia in the university, and then I speak Japanese, my mother tongue, in the family. So I'm very rare to speak English, except if I'm typing an email to Lois or to other friends. So it's totally different. Thank you so much also for the introduction that Lois made. And I just want to read this first paragraph of the story that I experienced during the trip, both in first peace caravan and also the second one, that very much for me, shaping my character. And I would like also to thanks to LifeBridge Foundation, who was funding me for the second trip. And I put all the story here in very good book that you can buy and you can read later. The complete story actually, and very short, that Lois was telling was, this is what I was saying at the time. Lois, I'm not psychologically ready. I want to go back home to Indonesia, I humbly said, even though I only just arrived in the United States 2 weeks ago. Then in a soft voice, Lois replied, next month we will begin a peace trip mission to Canada. So tonight you go to bed, and tomorrow morning we will wake up early. I have surprise for you. That next morning, before the sun appeared on the eastern horizon, the two of us left Charlotte Melville house where we were staying in Bristol. We drove into a city that I only heard about, the city of course, often throughout my life. That morning on May 1997, I set foot for the first time in New York City. That same day we had lunch with rice in Indian restaurant. I had gone 2 weeks without eating rice since my arrival, which I always ate for breakfast, for lunch, and dinner in my hometown back in Indonesia. We had a meeting with Larry Old. This is a very generous man. While the rest of the day's agenda at that day, we walked around Rockefeller Center and we took the ferry to the Statue of Liberty. By evening, we were back in Bristol and I was healed. I never again begged to go back home before the peace caravan to Canada was accomplished. This story is actually answering when I said to Lois that, I need to go back home to Indonesia. It's just before we started the program. The rest of the story that I had during my first peace caravan and second peace caravan in West Europe was here, so everyone can read it. I just would like to take this opportunity to tell you a bit about my background now and also what I'm working in Indonesia. After finishing that trip, both in Canada and West Europe, I went back home, and it was really during a bad time in Indonesia. As everyone know, in 1998 we have a reform era, which is actually a kind of reformation, where the new regime, Suharto, was pulled down. The 32 regime that ruled the country was fought, but it wasn't really in a very violent situation. So with that situation, I was just like, oh man, I just got back from the United States, where everyone like, oh, okay, if everyone go back from the United States, of course, yeah, that's a man with everything. I mean, when you go to the village like where I was born, where not many people even studying at the university. My sister was the first person graduated from the university, and it was in 1993. And I was graduated in 1994, as Lois told me the story yesterday in the different event, when I just got back home, because the university is from the other province. My village was light, and my father told me that that's the gift for you. So we never got any electricity until I graduated from the university. So but that was a long time ago. Indonesia now is having a good economy, except that that's what I always say. This economic growth in Indonesia, which is good, 4.6 or 4.7%, but it does not really trickle down to people. It's because the gap is very, very far. I don't know who's studying in economy. So that was the situation. Well, we can see many of rich people in Indonesia, many million actually. But there's also million who still, live under the poverty. We have a population of 270 million, and it's just not too far from the United States. But anyway, I'm proud of my country, and here is the logo, and here is written just like your motto, Pluribus Unum. We say Bhinneka and Tunggal Ika, diversity and unity. And this is the flag. It's just like the flag that's in front of mine, and this is like symbolizing the holiness, which means the white and the braveness. Because I do not want to tell about the story how we fight against the Dutch during that time, but I think only in this world only two countries who really fight during the revolutionary time. First is Indonesia, and then the second is Tanzania. Okay, so that's all about. I'm now back to university. Of course, I'm very glad after facing that difficult time after back from United States. Again, I thanks to world citizen diplomat. I thanks to Lois. It's gave me a credit. I work with the U.S. Embassy not too long after I'm going back. After I'm back from the peace caravans, I think it's only 6 or 7 months, and I stay with the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta for 7.5 years. I'm taking the portfolio of Islamic political, and then I moved to the Dutch Embassy for 8.5 years, so total 16 years. I was working with the embassy, and then I resigned, and then I moved back to university. I'm teaching at the Department of International Relations, and I'm mastering on the counterterrorism. I have a book, but it's still in Bahasa Indonesia as well, about all how the Indonesian fight against the Bali bombing, 2001. This is right after the WTC. Here is me. I'm here after my last visit. This visit is actually the 4th visit that I made, following my first visit, as Lois said, in 1997, and then 1998 by the support of Life Bridge Foundation. And then in 2003, I went back just to Washington, D.C. It was sponsored by the embassy, and I got a training on political tradecraft training. And then here's again, my 4th visit, just to thank you all. Thanks to Lois, thanks to Barbara, and thanks to everyone. And hope that our friendship can be forever. Thank you.